All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for being patient with us. We do have a lot of people in this webinar today, which we're really excited about. So we wanted to give everyone a chance to get on. So this is the Systems Manager webinar, and we're really excited to have one of our customers joining us on this webinar today. We have Brett from Waitr, who is going to take us through his dashboard, share some of his experiences, and we're really excited to get into all of that. Before we start, we are going to go through some of the background of Cisco Meraki, who we are, what our technology offers, as well as a general overview of Systems Manager as a tool. And then we're going to have Brett walk us through what he uses Systems Manager for. Just a reminder that there is a chat box and a Q&A box, so anytime you have questions, please feel free to enter them into those boxes. My colleague Deanna will be able to answer those questions as they come up. I will also do my best to leave some time for Q&A at the end of this webinar, and we'll hopefully be able to answer all of your lingering questions. Just a reminder that those of you on this webinar today are likely eligible for free Systems Manager licenses. So in order to be eligible for those licenses, unfortunately, you cannot be a partner, reseller, or consultant, and you do have to be an IT professional registered with your company email address, and you must confirm your shipping address with your Meraki rep. So it's probably just your email address in this case, since we're not going to be sending you any hardware. So if you have any more questions about eligibility, please check out meraki.cisco.com/freesm, and you can get more details there. I really encourage you, of course, to take advantage of this. I'm sure all of you are going to, but this is truly the best way to get your hands on our software and really see how it can make your day-to-day life easier. This demo will hopefully do a good job of that as well, but I think getting your hands on is the best way of really understanding. So just, again, a reminder to get your hand on those licenses, please get in touch with your rep and they'll be able to get you set up. So a little bit about Cisco Meraki and our background. For those who are less familiar with Meraki as a whole, we are a complete cloud-managed IT solution. So you came to this webinar, of course, with a specific focus in mind, which is Systems Manager, our enterprise mobility management tool. But we also have a whole line of other products. So we started out with wireless back in 2006 as a grad student research project. Our founders were exploring mesh wireless systems and deploying access points throughout the city of Boston when they received funding to start a business. So they started Meraki in 2006, and from there we branched out into switching, network security, SD-WAN, communications, unified endpoint management, and security cameras. So we have a very extensive portfolio now, and that's all been enabled by the fact that we were acquired by Cisco back in 2012, I believe. So, being able to partner up with Cisco, accelerate our growth into these different areas has been really great for us, and I think it's been really fantastic for our customers as well, because as you'll see throughout the demo and throughout using your dashboard, all of the great user experience that you get through the Systems Manager tool is offered amongst all of our products. So we are an integrated hardware, software, and cloud service all in one. Systems Manager is sort of our special product in that it's only software. The rest of our products do have a hardware component. So we have access points, physical switches, security cameras, and so on. All of our engineers, whether they're Systems Manager engineers or our hardware engineers, they all sit in the same office in San Francisco with us here. And that means that all of our products are designed to communicate intelligently with one another. So you'll see a couple integrations with Systems Manager into our wireless, for instance, where you can force a client device to download a Systems Manager profile in order to access the network. That's just one example. But you do get those integrations throughout the dashboard, which is really fantastic. And we are really the only vendor offering this breadth of IT offerings. We are, of course, a leader in cloud-managed IT at this point, and we are among Cisco's fastest-growing portfolios, which we're really proud of. We have over 250,000 unique customers, over 3.5 million Meraki devices online, and over 5.5 million active Meraki dashboard users. So those numbers are kind of mind-boggling, but like I said, we're really excited to have expanded our reach this far. So a little bit of background on our technology for those who are new to cloud or just getting into cloud. What does it actually mean? I'm sure you've heard cloud, all the time. You don't have to be afraid of the cloud. We don't ever send user traffic data through the cloud. The only thing that we do send to our cloud is management data. So that's going to allow you to configure your devices through the cloud and see data at a high level. So for instance, being able to see that a client device is accessing Facebook, but not necessarily knowing what they're doing on Facebook or whose page they're visiting on Facebook. So you do get that high level metadata, but we don't actually send any of the user traffic through the cloud. So that makes sure that your data stays secure. Having this cloud management also means that we can provide a really intuitive browser-based dashboard to customers. So that means you never have to install any software, of course, and you can manage everything through just a web browser. So if you're on vacation in Hawaii and you leave your work computer at work, as you probably should, but there's some IT crisis, as there always is, you'll still be able to access your network from the hotel computer should you need to do that. Of course, this also means that all of our products are extremely scalable. Again, Systems Manager is a little bit unique. Of course, most software is very scalable. All of our hardware is also just as scalable because we don't have any additional on-prem hardware required, servers, controllers, things like that. We have unlimited throughput as well. There's no bottlenecks. And so you can get all your devices, whether they're managed devices through Systems Manager or Meraki hardware devices, up and running in a matter of minutes or hours instead of weeks and months that you typically see with large deployments. All of our products are extremely reliable. We have multiple redundant data centers in every geo that we sell into, so you don't have to worry about that. The network will function, as will your managed devices. They'll continue to function as expected. If they lose any sort of network connectivity, of course, they're going to cache their most recent configuration and run off of that. So you don't have to worry about any connectivity issues. You just won't be able to configure anything until you regain that connectivity. And of course, all of our products are extremely secure. We do produce products that are designed to be compliant with HIPAA and PCI compliant networks. You don't have to worry about that. If you have any more questions about security, you can go to meraki.cisco.com/trust to learn more. We have a whole page built out to explain all of that to you. So why even consider sort of this new way of looking at things? Of course, there's constantly evolving IT challenges, and I think particularly in the last 10 to 20 years or so, we've seen these huge shifts happening in the way that data affects average users' day-to-day lives, but especially the IT managers, of course. So we're moving into a world where we already are in a world where there's billions of mobile devices online. So having this integrated mobility management that I'm talking about with Systems Manager, it becomes really critical. To have to manually configure all your devices that are running in your organization can take, like I said, weeks, if not months or years just to get all of that software downloaded. We're seeing a shift in the way that people consume media. Of course, 10 years ago, people were still downloading files. Now we're seeing, of course, everybody streaming rich media. So we're looking, at ways to mitigate that impact on your network. So we do have layer 7 analytics and traffic shaping tools integrated into our Meraki full stack as well. And of course, there's always new business opportunities out there. So we have our integrated analytics and user engagement tools, but also, just having the ability to manage your mobile devices, which may now be acting as POS, devices in a lot of cases, is going to be really powerful in driving the bottom line for your company. This is a complete solution out of the box. There's no extra hardware, software complexity required across the board with all of our products. We also have a really strong emphasis on feature velocity. So we are sort of a hardware company, but at the same time, we do deliver software as if we're, purely a software as a service company. So we make sure that all of our engineering teams feel really empowered to constantly create new features and push those to our customers, And since we do run on a licensing model, all of our customers have access to those new features as they come out. So we hear all the time from customers that, they just were kind of poking around the dashboard and realized that this feature that they had been asking for forever was suddenly there, and it was really exciting. We also have a Make-A-Wish tool on every single page of our dashboard, which is a direct line of communication between you as a customer and our engineering team. And I can say for a fact that I receive alerts on, when people make wishes through the dashboard directly to my phone. So we really do see those feature requests, and we're always super excited when we're able to let our customers know that we've sort of granted one of their dashboard wishes. So with that, I want to now introduce Brett, and actually I'll allow him to introduce himself. Can you give a little introduction, Brett?
Yeah, my name's Brett Guidry. I work for Waitr app. We are a food delivery company, and my position is the Technical Services Manager.
Great. So can you just give us a little bit of background on Waitr, what you guys do, and some of the growth you've seen over the past, couple of years, I guess?
So yeah, Waitr is we are a food delivery app. We have restaurant partners that we onboard into our system, and we create menus that represent their menus and take professional level photography of each of the items on their menu, input that into our app, and then consumers both on web and iOS and Android can download the app, and then they can view menus of restaurants in their area, and then order, and then one of our drivers will then go to the restaurant, pick up the food, and then bring it out to wherever you requested the food get delivered. We're a 4-year-old company, just over 4-year-old, and currently all along the Gulf South.
Great, fantastic. So, of course, you're in charge of all of the technical infrastructure for the company. So can you give a little bit of background on some of the challenges you were facing before you ended up going with the Meraki Systems Manager solution?
So I've been with the company about 2 years now, and when I came on, we did not have a mobile device management platform in place. Every single one of our restaurant partners has an iPad that we deployed to them, and previous to my employment, we were actually using Apple Configurator with a security profile that somebody created, shared that around to everybody, and then they would have to reconfigure every single iPad out the box. That process would take about, depending on how good their internet was, anywhere from like 30 minutes to 2 hours. Obviously we have people across multiple states with different internet speeds, so that process could take a good while for each iPad. Started researching. I came from a very Apple-heavy concentration in my background and training. Started researching into mobile device management. Did a couple of test runs with a couple different platforms, and found Meraki to be the best. But it was very, very hard before we started implementing something.
Yeah, we hear that a lot from our customers, especially that manual aspect of configuring all your devices, which I know is probably the most painful part. So obviously you guys have undergone some really rapid growth since you started 4 years ago. Can you just give us a look at exactly what you're dealing with from the technical side?
So yeah, we introduced 2 new markets. Now, market is comprised of like a group of cities in a highly populated area. So we do 2 new markets a month. And then in those new markets, you might launch a new market, and it might launch with around 50 restaurants. But then there's continual exponential growth that we see in each market after we launch. Not to mention the older established markets are always gaining new restaurant partners as we go. So we do see anywhere from 5 to 10 new restaurants a week coming on the system, and actually that number has been revised. We're sometimes hitting like 20, 30 new restaurants a week, but it does require a constant influx of new seats that we get every month. That is correct right now that we're at, actually, we just hit 3,500 restaurant devices that are on the platform as of today, I think.
So lots of growth.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess what led you to choose Meraki? You mentioned you did some research and you came to the conclusion that Systems Manager was the best option. Can you kind of talk us through what went into that decision?
So I looked at a lot of the competitors. What we need for the way that we set up our system is we need like one or two people in an area to be able to handle a good bit of those iPads that were deployed out there. In the beginning, it was just me, so we needed me by myself handling, 1,000 or so iPads remotely, and we need to be able to make changes to all those iPads on the fly remotely without people going out. We tried some of the other competitors out there. They did not fit everything we needed them to do, but Meraki System Manager checked all the boxes. Like I said, we're predominantly Apple, but we do have some Windows units, laptops out there, and we do have some Android tablets out there. So I couldn't go 100% with an Apple solution. So that's why System Manager really checked off all the boxes we needed it to.
Can you give any examples, Brett, of those types of functionalities that the competitors weren't able to offer that you find really helpful with Systems Manager?
The being able to remote into computers really helps me on the IT side, because I also handle company-wide IT for a lot of our different departments, in all of our corporate departments like sales and engineering and customer service and things of that nature. We have two main offices, one in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and one in Lafayette, Louisiana. And I'm able to cover that. I'm located in Lafayette, but I'm able to cover that Lake Charles office as well, with being able to remote into people's computers to see exactly what they're looking at. Additionally, another feature that really stood out for us was obviously the compatibility with all the different platforms. That was a big thing. But the ability to assign a group of devices to one technician in an area was really something that was very important to us as well.
So, getting back to the point of the specific growth that you guys are facing literally on a daily basis, can you kind of talk to how Systems Manager helps you handle that type of rapid growth?
Yeah, like I was saying before, we're using an Apple configurator, and our technicians in the different areas had to attach each iPad to their computer and configure it with Apple configurator on each go round. That process, like we said, was taking a very long time. Once we implemented System Manager, though, we set up a profile, a security profile, and then through the device enrollment program through Apple, we're able to automatically assign that profile to those devices before they even get shipped. So as they're leaving our supplier, I get a notification. I'm able to tag all the ones with the appropriate security profile, and then when they come out of the box, when they get to where they're going and they start them up out of the box, the first or second panel after you hit Wi-Fi says this is being managed by Meraki System Manager by Guidry at Waitr, and it only gives you the option to configure it. You can't get out of it. And then it auto-configs from there. I mean, the process went from, 30 minutes to 2 hours. Now it does it in about a minute, depending on how good your Wi-Fi is. It does it in about a minute as it starts up.
Awesome. So I want to quickly mention to everybody, obviously Brett has mentioned a few times that he's a big Apple proponent. And so DEP is really helpful for those of you who do use Apple products. But of course, Systems Manager does work across platforms. So we work with Android and Chromebooks and everything else. So we do have, a bit more functionality with Apple simply because they provide us more hooks to develop on. And of course, Cisco does have a partnership with Apple. so that gives us a little bit of an advantage there, but we do work across all platforms. So you talked a little bit about remote troubleshooting already, Brett. Do you want to kind of talk about some of the numbers that you've seen in terms of saving time and resources with SM?
So one thing in particular, when we had the hurricanes in 2017, we have a big influence in the southern Houston area. So obviously it was heavily affected by the flooding. From here, from our control center with my clients list, I was able to see connectivity on those iPads and the battery charge. And through a couple of the things that the client's page reports back to me, I was able to determine how many of those iPads were actually affected, which means I came up with a list of restaurants that possibly could have been affected. And once the water subsided down there, we were able to send people, our technicians out to those restaurants ahead of time to check on them, make sure everything was okay, make sure our iPad was working, and to get them up and running as fast as possible. Because everybody knows in the restaurant industry, any days that you have to be closed is very hard on the business.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great story. And so in terms of the time and energy that your team has saved in general, you know, outside of that sort of crisis situation, can you speak to that also?
Well, as far as the remote desktop feature, really helps. It allows me to be a one-man stop shop for helping people troubleshoot. Obviously, we have a bunch of different departments, like I mentioned before. You know, our salespeople are out in the wild and all are pushing the boundaries of where we're located right now. So, but even in those situations, you know, all our iPads we deploy are all on Verizon, so we're able to catch them and their computers wherever they are. So if they have a question, like this morning, I had a sales rep out in Georgia. He accidentally changed the language on his Microsoft Office to Arabic. So I was able to remote into his computer through his connection to his iPad, his LTE connection, remote into his computer. A couple of clicks, I was able to change his language back to English. And, you know, something that he could have been dealing with until he got back somewhere else, I was able to do while he was on the road.
Yeah, that's great. I also understand, I mean, so I think a big concern for a lot of people across the board when they're dealing with high value items like iPads or whatever other tablets or computers they might have in inventory is theft. So I understand that you've had a couple incidences where Systems Manager has kind of helped you out with dealing with theft in particular. Can you walk us through these?
Yeah, so the first incident was in New Orleans. We had a restaurant a restaurant partner in New Orleans who was closed for remodeling. Their restaurant was boarded up. Somebody broke the boards off the restaurant and got in through a window and stole about $20,000 worth of cooking equipment and machines and iPads. They stole our iPad as well. The restaurant owner went to the restaurant that morning at around 8 o'clock. He called his city manager. His city manager immediately called me. I was able to open up my laptop, pull up the client list, find the name of the restaurant, find the iPad. And because we enable the location settings for all our iPads, I was able to ping an exact location for that iPad. This is before the police even arrived. I was calling the restaurateur back and letting him know, hey, I got an address for your iPad. It's got about an 8 to 10 meter difference, but it's pulling me an address. So I was able to give him that information. He passed it along to the police officers, but, you know, sometimes you just don't, you know, they don't want to pursue that. They told me that they weren't going to pursue it. So in that case, we weren't able to recover that iPad, but I was able to put it in lost mode, lock it down, and put a note on it that this iPad had been stolen. So it essentially breaks the device. Now, for the other incident that happened about a month after that, we had a sales representative eating dinner with some friends at a restaurant in Jackson, Mississippi. He was only in the restaurant for about an hour and a half, and when he came out, he found that one of his windows was broken, and they had stole his personal laptop, our company iPad and their laptop, and his personal camera out of the vehicle. He immediately called me. And told me the situation. I was at home eating dinner with my family at the time, and I opened up my laptop and requested a GPS location on the iPad, and I noticed it was very close to his original location. Continued to request GPS locations every so often, and noticed that it was moving down the highway away from him. By this time, the police had showed up, and I then was in contact with the police officers that were working the case. I told them the situation. I told them it was on the highway, moving, north, northwest away from him. They said just keep checking on it and let us know. Gave me their cell phone number. Periodically, I would check and see where it was moving, and it came to a stop. I called the police officers, and I let them know. They said, that's great. They were on their way. They went there, and they said, it's an apartment complex. Can you narrow it down a little bit further? And I said, I'm sorry, it's only showing me kind of roundabout where it is. And they said, okay, well, just keep looking and let us know if it moves again. Sure enough, about 15, 20 minutes later, it started to move again. The police officers were hanging out in the parking lot. I called them back and said, hey, guys, it looks like it moved across the street. The cops then told me there's a bar across the street. We'll go check it out. They went in. They apprehended the suspect trying to sell the iPad and the camera to somebody. I was able to lock the iPad down and actually play a sound. So they were able to arrest the guy on the spot, and then they were able to recover the iPad and the camera that night. But later, after a warrant was gotten for the suspect's apartment, they were able to recover our computer as well.
That's awesome. That's a really great story. Thanks so much for sharing that. This is a little overview of your actual network. So before we dive into the demo, is there anything else that you wanted to quickly mention? If not, we'll just jump right in.
Nope.
All right. So let me switch over. So I'm going to give a big disclaimer that I'm going to disappoint a lot of people, including Brett. I wasn't able to get my permission set up to demo the remote desktop that Brett has been raving about. Kind of goes to show you how good our security tools are within the company. So we, of course, don't want our employees to be able to log in whenever or wherever. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to log back in really quickly. So unfortunately, I won't be able to demo the remote desktop functionality specifically, but we're going to take a look at the rest of Waitr's deployment. So this is a list of all of Brett's client devices. You can see that they have over 3,700 client devices running in their Systems Manager list right now. So these are all devices that have the Systems Manager profile installed and that he can manage. And some things I want to point out just about the general UI before we kind of let Brett walk us through this. You can add and take away various columns to this table that we're looking at, so you do get some customizability there. So whatever sort of details are most important to you, you can highlight here. You can drag and drop these columns to sort of sort the information, in whatever way you'd like. So we give you that flexibility. Our search functionality is also really robust. So whether we want to search by a device name or a device tag, it's really easy to do, or even, an operating system or a product type. We can look for, obviously, the bulk of Waitr's devices are going to be iPads. So if I search iPad, we get the full list here. We can also look for iOS or whatever else we want to do. And from there, we can select multiple devices, choose from a set of commands. So we can actually, reboot all of these, which I'm not going to do. We can obviously reboot all these devices in, just a couple of clicks without ever having to go on site to those locations. So that's just a really high-level overview of this client list. Brett, do you want to walk us through any of your favorite tags, functionalities, anything from the client list page that you kind of do on a day-to-day basis?
So one thing you'll notice right there with number 11 and a couple of the other ones, periodically we do have people go out. Our technicians are actually some of our delivery people as well. And what we're doing is we're utilizing Meraki Systems Manager as an inventorying process, like asset management. So you'll notice number 11 is a restaurant where somebody went out and we have a checklist for them to do, and a Google form that then emails us back once they do the checklist. And once they do that, then we're able to put some of their information here in the notes to show that we've been there, checked it out, and some of the information is correct.
Great. So if I click into any of these devices, and I'll just use this one as an example, we can actually get some richer information about that specific device. So everything from which generation of iPad it is, all the way through the MAC address or the current charge level. We can see all of that information right here. We can also see a general geographical area that iPad is in. And obviously, this location is going to be dependent on whether your device has GPS running in it or not, whether it's connected to a network. We're going to use a variety of different pieces of information to piece together where that device actually is geographically. And that's also, of course, going to affect the range of areas that it could be in, the range of error. So if we come down here, we can see a list of remote commands that we can enable on this device as well. So Brett kind of mentioned that when the police officers went to the bar, they were able, he was able to play a sound remote. So we can do that directly from this menu. Are there any other commands specifically, Brett, that you enjoy using or that are particularly useful?
I enjoy using the send notifications just to let them know, especially like if I'm reading that the charge is low. I'll send a notification on there to ask the restaurant, hey, this is the IT manager. Can you please make sure that your iPad is plugged in? Everybody knows that you can't cover all your people all the time, and if there's an iPad sitting up on the counter, a waiter or a waitress will definitely unplug it to charge their phone at any given time.
Yep. So, of course, if you send a notification through this tool, it's just going to pop up on the screen, just like a normal notification. It's really handy. I actually have this installed on all of my mobile devices at home because I'm spoiled, and it's really nice to be able to kind of do everything that Brett's been talking about.
This is interesting as well. So, all our iPads are LTE enabled with Verizon. We do predominantly try and use Wi-Fi when it's available. Historically, most restaurants don't really care that much about their ISP or their speeds. So as a troubleshooting thing, through Apple's volume purchase program, I was able to download a lot of free apps that help our technicians do some testing whenever they're at the restaurant to see if their Wi-Fi is going to be fast enough, or if they should put them on LTE, or if they are on LTE, if it's fast enough to support our dashboard app. So I was able to push out remotely to all these iPads, all 3,500 iPads that we have out there. I was able to push out the speed tests, so that way it gives us our installers a little edge up and help us in the future. Because if they install it correctly with the very best possible speeds, whether LTE or Wi-Fi, then that keeps us from having to go back to that restaurant and troubleshoot later.
So that actually brings up another point, which is that you can actually decide, of course I was trying to figure out my admin settings. So let me hide admin because this won't show up. Actually, I may need to re-enable that. We're actually having, since these are live demos that we always do on our webinars, we're actually having a little bit of a software issue specifically with demoing networks. So I may have to do that, re-enable that. But let's see if we can get by here. If I come to apps, we can see more of what Brett was just talking about. So we can decide which applications are going to appear on your various devices. I didn't give my disclaimer, and that's always the hallmark that something's going to go wrong. I always give a disclaimer that this is a live demo, anything can happen. So you're seeing it now. So we're looking at the list of apps right now that Brett has downloaded and has pushed to various devices. So if you look at this column here, we can see the various tags that Brett uses and which applications are going to be pushed to which devices. Is there anything you want to call out about this page, Brett?
Yeah, so this gives you, this app management, being able to push these different tags, really gives you a big advantage when you're able to, let's just say, case in point, the sales team, okay, which we call them business development managers. So you see BDM on iPads, they are constantly coming up with new applications that they might need, and they need to help make their job easier or, to fill a need that they might have. So it's easy for me to download that app and then push it out to all their tags immediately. And then it's very easy for their administrations or for their leadership to send out an email and say, okay, guys, y'all should see a new app on your phone, iPad, like Adobe Fill and Sign. We're going to use this to fill out contracts from now on. So, and they'll send out a little explanation on how to do that. So it keeps everybody mobile. It keeps everybody up to date and trained. So, and it also gives make sure that everybody's iPad is configured the same way.
Yeah, and another way of sort of making sure that that configuration is just how you want it outside of, just purely app management is going to be through your settings tool and creating various profiles for your devices. So, Brett, I'm guessing you make pretty good use of this as well when you're deploying new iPads. Do you want to walk us through this profile that you have here?
So some of the best things about this profile is obviously the restrictions. I have everything turned on, and it's pretty in depth, especially for the supervised devices. It allows you to whitelist things. So even though Apple has some native apps that you can't get rid of, with the whitelisting of the apps, you can hide them. So the only apps that pop up are the ones that you want to pop up. For us, that's great because on the restaurant level, we only want them seeing and using our app.
Right. And so you can also enable single app mode depending on the specific use case. Lots of people use that for, point of sales in particular at restaurants. And Brett was also talking about the showing and hiding various apps. So, on these iPads that fall under this profile, we're only seeing these applications, visible on that iPad. You can also see that you can set up more basic things like a wallpaper. So obviously you guys push out your Waitr wallpaper to all of these iPads so that they're all sort of unified and matching, which is great. And you can also adjust the home screen layout. So those applications that you've chosen to show or hide will show up here, and you can actually just drag and drop them, and this is representative of how they'll look on the actual screen. So you have that ability as well. Brett, I'll defer to you. Is there anything else, do you take advantage of geofencing, or I know, of course, remote desktop, which unfortunately I can't show. Is there any other, really powerful functionality that you use on a daily basis or that you just think is really cool that you want to show off?
I think that's about it. Geofencing, we've played around with it. It's great. The only problem is, like we were talking about, your restaurants don't have really great Wi-Fi, and what I've tested with that is to try and drop a geofence around the restaurant, so if the iPad leaves there, it'll give us a notification. Is where I want to go with that. However, internet at some of these locations can be spotty at best. So I would get a lot of notifications very quickly. Another feature, too, that I was very appreciative of with using System Manager was, we develop all our applications in-house. You're able to upload from, ASW bucket our application straight into here, and then deploy it straight from System Manager. Now, anybody who develops applications knows that there are certificates that only last so long. So a good story was when I first came on, we had about 800 devices out in the wild. Our certificate for our iPad app was going to expire. The engineers let me know. We organized all our technicians out in the field at all our different cities to go out and reinstall the app via a link in the notes for every single device. That took 4 weeks for us to do because they're just so spread out and they're all over the place, and coordinating that many people. What I was able to do this year whenever it expired was I did it all in the same night. I was able to do half of them at once and then do the rest of them the next morning. Just by selecting our app. Once I selected our app, I deleted it off all the iPads, and then I reinstalled it, which just renewed I reinstalled a new version of it, which then pushed it all out to all of them. So something that took probably about 20, 30 people 4 weeks, a year ago, this year in August took me about 3-4 hours.
Wow, that's really awesome. This has been really, I think, eye-opening to take a look at your real network and the real use cases that you've had for Systems Manager. And I'm really happy that, you've seen some tangible outcomes because, we love hearing about that, those of us who work at Meraki. With that, I'm going to jump back over to the slides and sort of wrap up other information about our products for those who are interested. So again, we do have a full stack of Meraki products. We have our access points, our security appliances, our switches. We have Systems Manager, which we've talked your ear off about today. We have our line of communications devices as well as our security cameras. And this is a complete cloud-managed IT portfolio with single pane of glass management. If you did end up going forward with Systems Manager and you also needed wireless, for instance, everything would show up in that same dashboard that we were just looking at. So you have a single place to manage all of those different pieces of your infrastructure. In terms of next steps, I encourage you to check out our blog. That's where you'll find all of our product updates, feature updates, new releases, fun things like that. I really encourage everyone to do a risk-free evaluation, of course, and to get your hands on your free Systems Manager licenses. And you can join our Meraki community at community.meraki.com so you can talk with other IT professionals who, use Meraki for weird and wonderful purposes or have questions, or if you have any questions, you can ask them there as well. With that, I want to thank Brett so much for taking time to join us today. I want to see if there are any questions for him or for me that are lingering. So give us just a second here. So I think we answered this question already, but I just want to reiterate, Systems Manager does work with Android and Chrome OS devices as well. Of course, again, this was heavily skewed towards Apple products just because that's what Brett uses in the real world, but we do work across platform as well. So no need to worry about that if you're not an Apple shop. So I actually think that's pretty much it. So no questions for you, Brett. I think you did a really fantastic job of explaining your deployment, and it was really helpful to walk through your actual network. So again, thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to speak with me today and to kind of give our prospective customers some insight into how they might use Systems Manager. And thank you everyone for joining the webinar today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.